Katha originated from the way in which Bengali housewives mended old clothes by taking out a strand of thread from the colorful border of their saris and making simple designs with them. The traditional form of Katha embroidery was done with soft dhotis and saris, with a simple running stitch along the edges. The finished product they were known as lep katha or sujni katha. The entire cloth is covered with running stitches. The stitching on the cloth gives it a slight wrinkled, wavy effect. Kathas were made by women of all rural classes in Bengal. The rich landlord's wife making her own elaborate embroidered quilt in her leisure time, and the tenant farmer's wife making her own thrifty coverlet equal in beauty and skill. The Katha in its simplest form was invented out of necessity and made in varying sizes and layers, starting with small pieces of cloth spread in the courtyard to lay newborn babies on which they were massaged with mustard oil to the light covers that adults use at night and wrap over the shoulders in winter mornings. The Sanskrit word Kantha means rags. One legend links their origins to Lord Buddha and his disciples, who used to cover themselves with garments made from discarded rags that were patched and sewed together. Rags displayed at Indian shrines or tied to tree limbs symbolize prayers and wards off the evil eye. The oldest extant Katha date from the early 1800s and is embroidered with blue, black, and red threads that were unraveled from sari borders. Because they were salvaged from used garments that had been frequently laundered, the colors tend to be muted. Katha hails from the regions of erstwhile East Bengal, present-day West Bengal, and Bihar. Essentially a women's art, it is a form of patched, quilted, and vividly embroidered textile made entirely out of used cloth. Katha was almost never made for money, and the idea of using this embroidery commercially originated more in urban groups where young women were trained from scratch rather than from women who have done this work all their lives. There was a growing interest in this craft form in the 1980s. The most fascinating story about Katha is depicted in a documentary film which showed a young woman being taught alphabets not on chalkboards but on Katha fabric with Katha embroidery. The history of needle art in India can be traced back to almost 3000 BC. It is in fact considered to be the oldest of art forms prevalent in India. From the archaeological excavations at Mohenjo-daro and Harappa to those at Behrut and Sanchi, it transpired that embroidery was prevalent even in those days. According to popular belief, Katha as an art form owes its origin to Bengal. The ancient capital of Bengal, namely Saptagram or Satgaon, was one of the forerunners in popularizing Katha embroidery. With its departure from the early to the late 16th century, the Katha motifs underwent a radical change from Brahmanical art to Vaishnava cult. The imaginaries on terracotta temples of Bengal found their reflections in embroidered art. Figured compositions with self-contained narratives became predominant in this Bengal art form. In general, everyday objects find their expression in Katha embroidery. From ornate alpana patterns to birds, animals, trees, flowers, with predominance of lotus, Gods and goddesses, Katha unfolds the stories of women folk of rural Bengal. Very interestingly, the piece of cloth and the embroidery on it are both called Katha in Bengal. While reading about the origin of Katha, these words caught my attention. It read that the universe is a woven fabric where everything and every human have a place at the meeting point of the warp and weft. These words beautifully sum up the essence of Katha.